Hey, we talked the other day to Vivian Krause, who was an investigative freelance journalist who'd been doing some great work following the money in the campaign against farmed salmon on BC's west coast. She did a great job. Didn't have enough time to, in your mind, connect all the dots, because it's easier to follow in the printed story she had. But in essence, there are 3 big foundations in the United States which are funneling money into organizations like the Suzuki Foundation, which have, as part of their agenda, a tax on the farm salmon business. Coincidental with a lot of support for the wild salmon business, the opposition and the environmental groups' activity is in itself a business, and there's a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars, going into these organizations to mount an attack on the farm salmon business on the West Coast. Suzuki came out with some wild claims after looking at 8 fish. 8 fish! And they weren't even the right species. This is the kind of stuff that goes on, but headlines are grabbed whenever these organizations come out with some claim. And my guest, I think, was of the opinion, and her industry was of the opinion, that, okay, enough's enough. Enough is enough. It is time to push back. With me, Laurie Jensen, Communication Corporate Sustainability Manager at Mainstream Canada. Hello, Laurie.
Good morning, David.
One of the problems in my business is when we talk about libel and slander, which is what you're going to court over, when we discuss exactly what was said, you end up getting caught in being enjoined in a suit by repeating the libel. It's an interesting problem for people like me.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, so we won't necessarily get into a ton of specifics, although, I don't want to spend the money of the companies that broadcast my show on lawsuits they don't want to get into. But you're pushing back. Have you, and we'll tell you the details in a second, but what prompted you to go after, in this case, the defendants in this one, Don Staniford, Carry On Business as the Global Alliance Against Industrial Aquaculture? What got you to this point, Laurie?
Well, thank you, Dave, for asking that question. As you know, Canadians are usually quite polite people, and we let people have their say, and we don't usually speak up, even when we should. But this latest campaign, comparing a healthy product like salmon to cigarette companies and cancer, is just so absurd, and it's so manipulative, and it's gone beyond logic or any kind of unscientific data that really we have to act. We can't not act, and we need to do this for our employees, our suppliers, our communities. This has just gone too far, and as I say, enough is enough. It's time to draw a line in the sand and say enough, people.
And so you're using the court system, you're suing these guys for defamation, right?
Absolutely. We've tried everything else. We've sent polite letters. We've asked them to correct their information. We've asked them to talk to us. We've opened up our website for transparency, putting what we do on that. But they're not stopping. In fact, they're just getting worse.
You know what? We've seen this. Clearly, you understand sort of our sensitivity in Alberta. I mentioned the oil sands in the introduction.
Absolutely.
Wild, crazy allegations about the oil sands, and they get away with them. There is a communication effort by the industry, but, Laurie, you're right. They, and we'll use that broad term, they don't care about the facts, Laurie.
Nope, they don't care. And I appreciate your mention to Vivian Krause earlier.
Yeah.
It's absolutely correct. It's interesting to see that the people that are protesting the most here are foreigners. They're not even Canadian citizens, and they get their funding from American foundations, such as Pew Salmon.
Oh, yeah.
Or Pew Foundation.
Pew Foundation,
Yeah.
and there's a couple of other ones, you're right, these big family foundations that have an ideology, and they spend a lot of money to go after your industry. Why, Laurie? Why do you think they hate the farm salmon business so much?
I think it's a competition. I think it's, if you notice, they talk about a wild Alaskan salmon. They don't talk about wild British Columbia salmon. It's a competition. It's about marketing.
It was coincidental, and Vivian wrote about this after one of the campaigns against farm salmon and suddenly the governor of Alaska is coming out talking about wild salmon, how great it is, and et cetera, et cetera. These sort of campaigns are coordinated.
Absolutely, and we notice it's the same people and it's the same groups against most of the, whether it's farming, whether it's oil sands, it's really the same foundations and the same people are all involved in this.
So then, you're going after defamation. What do you hope to get? I mean, do you hope just for a financial settlement, or do you want them to somehow shut up?
Well, absolutely. It's not about the financial. It's not about the media. It's not about anything. It's about drawing a line, saying enough is enough. We're asking for a permanent injunction against Mr. Staniford, himself, his agents, his servants, anyone associated with the GIA campaign or otherwise. We want him stopped. If they're interested in discussing sustainability facts, etc., that's fine. But we want this defamation, these words, we want this stopped.
The GIA, as you said, the Global Alliance Against Industrial Aquaculture. GIA is their acronym. So, is there any room for these people to have fair comment, Laurie?
Absolutely, and there are some groups that actually are interested in dialogue and interested in learning about the industry. As I said, our website, www.mainstreamcanada.com, they've asked us for transparency. We put everything we have on websites, and it's open for information. There's availability to get information, and they can always pick up the phone and talk to us as well. But some groups, in particular Mr. Staniford and friends, they've been spreading untruths about salmon farming for a very long time, but they're not interested in truth or anything. They're just interested in expanding their cause.
You say Mainstream, the second largest producer of farmed salmon in British Columbia. What's the largest one?
That would be Marine Harvest.
And are you guys working together?
You know what? We're not in this together, but we have the moral support of the other companies. But we're taking this action alone.
So and you are, I think, as you describe in the lawsuit, an indirect, wholly owned subsidiary of a Norwegian company, Cermaq, is that right?
Absolutely,
ASA?
absolutely. Yeah. But we're doing this on behalf of Mainstream Canada and our Canadian employees, our First Nation partners, and our communities. We're tired of being defamed. It's time for us to say, okay, enough. Like, this is what we do. Come and see for yourself. But to use these kind of smear campaigns, I think it's time we stop it. We're sick of the mudslinging and the personal attacks. It's interesting. Politics is coming up, and it's almost the same tactics they're being used.
Yeah. You say come and see us. You mean these people haven't?
Nope, never. I'm not sure Mr. Staniford has even been on one of our farms unless, he's done it after hours.
So, is he a Canadian?
No, he's not. I think he's from the UK.
I think it says in your early notice of civil claim, it says residence unknown.
Absolutely.
So how do you sue a guy if you don't know where he is?
Well, we'll find him.
we'll find him.
We know he's in Tofino, British Columbia.
Oh, he is in Tofino. Okay.
Yes, he was there before when he was sued by Creative Salmon for slander, but he got off on a technicality. And interestingly enough, he didn't learn a lesson that time, and he's increased his attacks this time.
Interesting. Hang on, Laurie. Going to come back to you. Laurie Jensen, my guest, Communications Corporate Sustainability Manager, Mainstream Canada, one of the companies involved in aquaculture in British Columbia. And as she said, okay, enough already. Enough is enough. Now, it's going to be the burden of proof, of course. The defense in these cases oftentimes is truth. Well, that's going to be fun for these guys. We'll come back after this.